Red. Bam. All right, so let's make sure we come up live here. We're waiting. We've got the fancy 8-ball on page.
We're always fancy.
We're fancy.
Yeah. Look at our set. My God, it's awesome.
It is awesome. With the other 4K camera.
I just realized all these like props and the whole background, it's like the epitome of like white privilege. It's just like all this nice stuff.
Seriously?
We're just surrounded by it. Yeah. It's just like shiny, like fun, cool, antique shit, you know?
Did you see the video I did with Brian and his kids? And he did it mostly for his mom, so their grandmom, to get her updated on their lives, and she loved it.
Oh, really?
And she commented on it. She said, you know, what are all the items? So she wanted me to do a video just, are we up here?
That's funny. My grandma is like that too. If like she saw this, she'd be like, what's all that stuff? And it'd be like one of the most interesting things to her.
She wanted me to go through, and I was just going to do it on my phone, item by item.
Yeah,
what
right,
it is and why it's there. And I'm looking through it, and I'm like, this stuff isn't that special, you know? The cabinets are really nice, but it's like there's a freaking U of M piggy bank in there.
It's kind of like a guy. You're just like, oh, it looks pretty cool.
Well, no. I wish everything had a story. I wish it was as interesting as she's.
No, right. I wish it did too, but you kind of put it there for a different reason. Or it is there for.
No, it's there. I mean, it's my nicest stuff. None of it's like. I mean, there's a Tammany Bank. That's kind of a big deal. There's a Tiffany plate. The rest of it's just stuff. A couple. It's not saying we're live. Where the fuck are you? Where are we, man? Where are we? Oh. Did I fuck? Oh, there we are. Yeah. And live.
Bingo.
And do we have sound?
Yep.
Oh, and we got like no latency. Yay for that. Okay. That should have happened faster. All right. We were talking for a good 2 minutes there. So it is what? 8:15, 8:20. And
showtime.
Bam. So what's the date?
Today is September 27th of the year 2019.
My name is Chris.
My name is Charlie.
And we are?
8-ballin'. Yeah. Oh, God.
And I just thought of something.
Fail.
So we haven't promoted this like we said we were going to. I'm not sure if we want to, but for now, because of what came up at the kitchen table, we are IDWO. Right?
IDWO, yeah.
That being said, Jordan Peterson, Godspeed, man.
Yeah. We're rooting for you all the way.
We're fans. And Offspring. IDW is IDW Offspring. IDWO. Yeah. So there, we've taken care of that. So just a quick housekeeping rant. Just got to keep people updated on the sneaky press. So listen to this. You'll like this. And I'm going to, it's indicting to Morning Joe. And it is, to me, like a misuse/abuse of statistics to tell a story that isn't the whole story. And I'll share something with you after this that I think's brilliant.
All right, I'll put a pin in it.
And you can put a pin in it. So I'm watching Morning Joe, and they're going on and on about Trump, and whatever, that's fine. It's a story. And they said 43%, they polled people, 43% think he should be indicted, 43% don't think he should be indicted. Didn't say what the other 14% thought. Anyway, so then, and I'm drinking my coffee. I'm not looking at the TV. I'm just kind of staring into space. It's early, and I'm just waking up, and I'm listening, and I'm not watching. So what she said was, and she was reading off screens of statistics that were rolling through about Trump and the shit that's going on. So 43% think he should be indicted. Then she said, and again, she's reading this. She said, and 63% of that 43% think he should be indicted on things that are indictable. So
the other 20 or 37% don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
What the first thing that okay, so you just kind of blew it up. But so what goes through my head is So basically the question was, do you think X? And 43% said yes.
Right.
And the next question was,
On what charges?
no, the next question, no, if you follow where my head went was, 43% said he should be indicted. 63% of the
Of that
43% say he should be indicted on indictable offenses.
Right.
In other words, like, here's the question you asked. Do you think X? Yes. And the next question was, really?
Well, yeah, I totally see what you're saying. To me, this is the Anchorman. 70% of the time, it works every time. You know, it's like, wait a second. What? So it's
Yeah,
like-
but 63% think he should be indicted on something he should be indicted for.
Oh, no. The way that I interpreted that was of the 43% that want him indicted, 63% of those people chose stuff that was actually legitimate in legal sense. No, that's not it?
No.
Oh, I thought that.
It's 63% think he should be indicted on things that are indictable.
I don't see how our interpretation is different. Because that would mean that the other 37% picked he should be indicted because he's a bad guy. That's what my interpretation is. Sorry.
Okay. Shame on you for being a smart guy.
I'm sorry.
You're blowing up the whole
I'm
fucking
fucking
thing.
ruining it.
Because, yes. So, well, my head went to, you just said nothing.
Yeah, what you really said.
Well, so fortunately for me, I rolled it back. It was on a DVR, so I could roll it back, and I looked at the screen. So the other, and it was 63 and 37. There was no missing percentages. So the 37 thought he should be indicted for not being fit for office.
Which is fucking nothing, right? Which is my point. Yeah.
But my rant is
Oh, I see. Sorry. That's what you mean by blew it up.
that she didn't represent what the question was. The question was, should he be indicted for this stuff, or should he be indicted just because he's a douche?
Because he's not my president.
Because you don't, right?
Right.
Because he's not fit for office, whatever that might mean to you.
Yeah.
So the second statement didn't suit the narrative had you been watching the show. So
Right.
she didn't include it. And I'm like, fucking really?
Right. It's a better way to put that would be 63% of people who would like Donald Trump to be impeached found or agreed that. How do I say this? 63% of the people who want Donald Trump impeached found these justifiable charges to cite that impeachment or whatever. And it's like the other 37% are just butthurt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It was worded very vaguely. And I want to say cryptically, but that's not really right. But anyway. But again, it was just, it wasn't telling the whole story.
No, and that's stats, though, for you. That's just like, hey, statistics, be wary. That shit's like the 50% of the drugs we find at the border are found at ports of entry. And it's like, what the fuck percent of that is the drugs that get across the border, though? Because you don't find all of them. Yeah. Doesn't give you anything.
So here's the thing. A guy had this up in his cube in a job I had long ago. Figures never lie, but liars always figure.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
I like stuff like that always. Like the rules for thee, but not for me. Like, I don't know, anything like that's kind of wordplay.
Yeah,
Never mind.
but that's true.
Yeah.
So that was a good one.
Figures.
Then what did we say where I said I got something else?
I totally took the steam out of your.
That's
you said to
okay.
save that for later, but we wanted to talk about something else. You want to get into that already?
Yeah, I said I've got something brilliant on that. Ooh, I'm gonna lose it. I don't want to lose the audience
Economic.
right now. No, it's okay. All right, so Greta
Thunberg.
You sure it's Thunberg?
Yeah, it's like thunder, but berg.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Thunberg. So
Double check.
I had something and have something that I'm all cranked up to talk about regarding not her, but the entire deal. And Charlie and I were sitting and having a bite before this, and he said, I don't know what you want to talk about, but I want to talk about...
Greta Thunberg.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, man.
That's what I want to fucking talk about.
We got a match made in heaven
Yeah.
tonight.
This is good.
So here's my thing. There are a whole lot of things that bug me about this. And I think the one you think is, and this is not meant as this is meant in the literal sense, that this young lady is a tool.
First thought. Propaganda, right?
She's a tool, man.
Yeah.
And she's not a tool in that she's a bad person. She's a tool in that a carpenter uses a hammer to pound in a nail.
Yeah.
This young lady is getting used to proverbially pound in a nail.
A better word might be like a pawn or whatever. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, pawn, whatever. I like that.
She's a pawn. And we can get into why an emotional 16-year-old is speaking in front of the frickin' UN because I think that's kind of where you want to go. But I want to talk about the hypocrisy of the whole freaking show that preceded her speech at the UN. And that's the boat. The fucking boat. So do you know much about the boat and them coming here from Salem, England, and on and on?
When I was dipping in my research, all the things, I only read a couple or a few articles, but I listened to the speech and, shit like that. And what I took away from it is she refuses to fly on planes because of the ridiculous, whatever, carbon emissions or some shit. Oh my God, I'm becoming a Michigander. Carbon. The emissions or something. And then it's like, hey, the 60-foot yacht, take this, it's no emissions. And then she took a train to Switzerland or something. It was 32 hours.
Okay, are you sitting down? Because I am.
I am too.
That was a joke.
Oh,
Thought you'd get it.
I did, but it was almost like too innocuous.
Too easy, sorry.
Yeah, I was like, what was that?
Am I feeding them? Don't do that. Don't give them. Sorry.
Fuck.
Okay, so here's the story on the boat. So, a little background. Her dad is an actor, director, movie maker. His father is an actor, director, movie maker. His wife is purportedly, and I believe this, a successful opera singer.
Yeah.
If you run in those circles and your parents are in those circles, there's a very, very good likelihood that you are extremely well off.
Yeah, if you think we're like...
Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they bought a boat, a carbon fiber boat. There was something made of it that they... Now, let's be clear. We didn't buy a new carbon fiber boat. They bought a used one. So we're not out making people build new boats for us. Well, first of all, if you buy used shit, all you're doing is encouraging the other guy to buy
A new
new
thing.
shit,
Yeah.
right?
Which is probably why he's getting rid of it.
So if you don't want carbon fiber boats being made, if that's some kind of thing, then just shut the fuck up and don't buy one at all.
Yeah,
Anyway,
reduce the market.
and oh, by the way, they bought it from the Prince of Monaco.
I didn't know that. Are you serious?
Yes, and it's a $4 million boat. So I don't know if that's what they bought it for, and they retrofitted it for another bazillion dollars or whatever. So it's a $4 million carbon fiber boat. Then it was retrofitted with solar panels to charge stuff and some kind of turbine or impeller to turn a generator. So it's totally
Self-sufficient or whatever.
self-sufficient and green. Okay, so carbon fiber it's fiberglass. It's fiberglass that uses carbon fiber for the fiberglass, which means it's thinner. So it requires less resin. But resin comes from petroleum distillates, and it ain't all green, right?
That was my first thought. Was like,
So, but anyway, so let's just say it's a $4 million carbon fiber boat that they sail here, and they made a thing about the trip, and they ate this, let's call it green, like low energy in terms of like making it, packaging it, and preparing it, vegan freeze-dried food or whatever the fuck it was. So there was something made of that. And there was just this whole to-do on the boat and the trip and all that. So there was her father and Greta on the boat and a crew of 3. Okay? Now, to level set my story here. If those two had flown here, and we're just going to call it, let's just call it ass seats. So asses in seats on a plane coming here. If the two of them flew here, it would be 2 ass seats. And if the two of them flew home, it would be 4 ass seats. Okay? And let's even set aside that there's planes coming and going that are pre-scheduled and that they're going to get on that plane with any problem. Probably, especially since I'm going to say it's likely they're probably going to fly first class anyway.
Obviously, yeah.
Right? So the incremental addition to any CO2 emission that a jet airplane might put out is 0. So let's set that aside, and let's just say that they go everywhere on this $4 million boat when they need to go places. So they get to New York. They have their crew of 3. Greta and her father move on with their business. What happens to the 3 crewmen?
They got to go somewhere, spend a night,
They get on a plane and they fly home.
Are you fucking serious?
I'm dead serious. Okay.
Unfucking believable.
Okay, so now we have 3 ass seats, right? We got 3 ass seats, so 3 carbon footprint ass seats. And it's not carbon. People like to call it carbon. It's CO2. Anyway, carbon's mean because it's coal and it's black and it's shitty. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so this story gets a hell of a lot thicker.
Like opera singer thicker?
Sure, why not?
Sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
How do you think Greta and her father got home?
They fly plane.
They flew home.
Fucking, I hate you. I fucking hate you. There's something that I'm going to interject here. This is quick, and then I'll let you get back.
No. Have at it.
While you're explaining to me about like their fucking dinner and like that it was a used boat that they bought and all this shit, I'm like, so someone did all this research, and I imagine that. To me, the dinner threw me off. I was like, that's suspicious because it's almost like they're expecting to be like told on about what they're eating, but every aspect of this thing has to kind of be perfect, right? So you're already like, even our food was like low energy to make the food, and then you have the balls enough to be like, yeah, our fucking crew flew home. What's up? And then we flew home. So what the hell's going on?
As long as you're going down this path, guess what was not shared in what they ate on the way here?
What? I have no idea.
What the crew ate.
Oh, right. Right. Which is kind of a libertarian view, but if you're going to be
they
preaching
might
this
be
whole...
eating steaks or hot dogs or whatever the fuck unfriendly,
Or
right?
spearing like a dolphin on the way over, yeah. An endangered dolphin.
CO2 farting fucking steaks.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So it gets better. So the 3 crewmen fly home. They fly home. There's a 60-foot yacht in New York fucking harbor or wherever it is. How does it get home?
They sent it on a barge or something.
They flew 5 crewmen from England or Sweden or whatever to New York to sail it home. So now we've gone from 5 ass seats to 10 ass seats.
That's more carbon footprint than I've had my entire life.
So if they had flown here, it would have been 4 ass seats. Because they took their green boat and did the responsible thing, they increased it to 10 ass seats, or 250% of what they otherwise would have done had they fucking flown here themselves on a plane.
I love this so much.
In addition to buying the fucking boat, and just as a side anecdote, it's estimated that the boat, its original construction and all the retrofits, took 32,000 man hours.
What? I thought you were going to say dollars. I was like, what the 32,000 man hours? What else could you build? Could you build a windmill in that time with that many people?
This story in and of itself should so fucking negate that anything that comes out of any member of this family's mouth should just be disregarded as hypocritical bullshit.
I'm doing the mouth thing. I had no fucking idea that it was that bad. As soon as you said the, $4 million boat, opera singer, mom, I was like, so they're fucking vapid, rich people, and they're all about image, right? As many of them, those people are. Not all of them. I'm not going to say that, but if you're like an opera singer and you, like you said, float in those circles, there's something about that. The imagery is everything.
Limousine liberals, except they're yacht liberals.
And then you're not even like you're gonna have preach this shit.
And you and I could make an honest case for being liberals.
Yeah, I would say that we very much are. Yeah, in a lot of cases.
So,
just like my
if
mother.
you don't know us and this is your first episode, don't jump to conclusions. Anyway,
like I don't know that just based on the climate change thing, in terms of a categorizational, whatever side note, I don't know that you have to be liberal to be in favor of, or that being liberal means being in favor of climate control. No. And
no. Being ecologically responsible that shouldn't be political. But
not at all. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's my point. So
yeah,
not in that sense, in more of a philosophical sense. Anyway.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. Why is Fox News not just like running this shit?
It was in two. So this is in two articles I found online. Two separate articles, so there were two corroborating stories for what it's worth. And I told the story to somebody at work, and they were aware of the same data. So
that's three strikes. Yeah, Greta.
I could certainly, somebody can call bullshit on me and fact check this, but I believe it. There were two different sources, and maybe their sources were the same, but wow.
If that is the case, because now we should be careful, right? If that is the case, that's fucking despicable. I cannot believe, and I have no reason to say that because you should be able to do whatever you want to do, but if you're going to fucking be like, it's...
They spent $4 million to be ecologically responsible, which parlayed its way into 10 ass seats.
Because Greta didn't want to fly a fucking plane.
No, because she wanted to make a statement with the boat.
Right, which was what comes to it. But I think it's more about her parents enabling her, being like, this is our daughter. She has such and such going on in her brain. We want to be supportive and hook her up. It's like, this is what that cost is. We did this because she has a dream. And how much of that was behind the scenes for her?
How much of that is even her dream? She didn't write that speech.
Right.
And that
we'll get into that.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, we'll get into that. But oh my god, to me, this is very much parent driven, and I don't know what anyone else has said about this pundit type people.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
Do we need to play the speech just so people know what the hell we're talking about?
Yeah, I wanted to have a transcript of it. It's very.
I have it up.
Okay,
I think I left it up. But go. Sorry, finish your point. I'll try to pull it up.
To me, this is like her parents who are rich and vapid, like we already talked about.
Why don't you just go ahead and say like what we're talking about for people who don't know?
Okay, so Greta Thunberg was a 16-year-old Swedish girl who, after doing a one-man, strike, so to speak, ended up growing this bigger movement that was all about stopping the inevitable, which is ironic if you're going to call your mission inevitable and say we're trying to stop it. Stopping the inevitable climate change that leads to the end of mankind, or at least some sort of apocalypse.
Right. So she's a 16-year-old environmental activist who has made these impassioned speeches that are on YouTube all over the place, and she was invited to New York this week or last week.
Yeah.
She sailed on this carbon fiber green boat, $4 million boat that I was going off on, with her father. To make a statement about how they travel so unbelievably responsibly to their destinations when they're doing transatlantic travel. And she gave an address to the UN in I believe it was just an environmental meeting, right? I think the meeting was unique.
Purely about climate, like a climate change council or some shit.
Climate change, rather, yes.
And but to me, here's what's kind of funny about it. It's like we have enough money. We believe in this kind of lifestyle, right? All right, sure thing. You believe in that. Greta's parents, Thunbergs. We live this. We want to live this kind of lifestyle. We think this is the way that everyone should live. We have enough money to actually do that, including paying for 8 extra ass seats when it requires, when it suits our travel needs when we want to. So like we're living like this, but it also, we need to have these guys. It's kind of like you're just doing it for the image. You see what I'm saying? You're not actually doing it for a fucking effect. And to me, it's like, this is propaganda. And then it goes even like shallower than that. It might not even be a political thing. It's just like, I want to be this kind of person, and I like this picture of who this person is.
That's exactly what it is. Look at us. Yeah. Look at us.
Yeah. Right.
That's exactly. Here it is. You want to play it?
Yeah, sure.
So here is her speech.
He's from a different age. Doesn't always know how to.
Thank you for that.
Hey, I'm on your side with this episode. We'll get into the age thing too.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thanks for going there.
I knew
old,
it.
and what did I?
We're at the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean.
Yeah, you should.
Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have.
I have to pause it.
That's a taste, right?
Just so you know, she was invited to give this speech.
Have to come to us, right? That's bullshit.
I shouldn't have to be here. You shouldn't have to come to us. She was invited. Do we want to listen to the rest? Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, sure.
It's,
that was like a little taste. Like anyway, she's doing this speech on. I would say just the importance of, or like.
Well, it's the egregiousness of what they're proposing. Like their proposed fixes. One, the whole thing's a fucking travesty, and you're all bad. And two, the fixes you're proposing are so woefully inadequate that you should all be ashamed of yourselves. That's kind of the gist of the speech. But I'll play another little bit, and if you want me to stop, I'll stop.
I'll tell you what my impression of the speech was.
My childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years,
all we can talk
the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight. You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation...
There's another minute and a half. You want to keep going?
No, that's enough. You've gotten the taste. This is all demagoguery at the end. I would argue that the whole speech is demagoguery, but the rest of it, you've heard the good points.
I don't know. Can a 16-year-old be a demagogue?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say.
Well, she is.
I would say that people, my fucking friend Mika would say it's impossible.
Oh. As her face is bleeding when she's hitting on Donald Trump.
Oh my gosh. Wow, nice recall. Anyway.
Steel trap. But Mike Malice pointed something out. He goes, she says, but all you can talk about is fairy tales of economic, whatever, perpetual economic growth. I don't even know what she said. But it's like...
That's close.
That's all we can talk about. Bitch, this is a fucking UN Council on climate change. This thing that you're at is only for this shit. What are you talking about? Yeah, but to me...
But I doubt she even wrote the speech. That's why she's...
Right. But if you're going to look at it at its face, which is, the fairy tale that she likes not... Other than the economic fairy tale, her fairy tale, the fairy tale of Greta is that this is her. These are her things. And I'm not going to dispel that. Let's just pretend there, right? Look at it on its face, because that way we can dispel it to what they're purporting it to be. It's like you're at a fucking UN Council on Climate Change. What are you talking about? And
you were invited. I shouldn't be here. You're the invited. I think she was the keynote speaker.
you made a willing. Also, yeah.
Please come here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Sure. No, I don't. You fucking figure it out
you made
yourself.
a total fucking spectacle of your trip on your 4,032,000 man-hour carbon fiber Prince of Monaco yacht.
Forgot about Prince Monaco. That is the icing on the cake. Yeah, shut the fuck up, little girl. That's what I'm going to say at first. Hypocrisy rampant. Just before we even get into the speech, the hypocrisy alone, and I know that you're not the mastermind, you're not the puppeteer, whatever, but then your parents shouldn't have put you in front of the camera and
That
made you
is
what
so
this is.
funny because when I was doing my rant this morning, and if you know why this podcast started, it's because I have no audience when I'm talking to myself at fucking 5 in the morning. So I'm like, you know what,
I'm gonna hide
guys?
a camera.
I'm gonna buy a microphone and a camera and just broadcast to the world. Anyway, I called her a marionette this morning.
There you go. Right, a marionette. Yeah, you're not the puppeteer, but you are part of the show. It's like, and she's 16, so you can't really blame her there.
No, but I'm just like minds. This
Right,
is,
right. No, yeah, totally. I'm just going off of that thought. And okay, so let's go in chronological order. When I'm listening to the speech the first time, I'm going, wow, she's actually, a pretty motivational speaker. And then she goes into the, people are dying. And I'm like, okay, you're brainwashing people. This is demagoguery. You're feeding on emotions, right? People are dying. Who's dying? Where? All around us. Where? I don't see anybody. People die from regular shit like car crashes all the time. And motorcycle, could name a lot of different automobile stuff, but and then she goes, all right, and then species are mass extinction is occurring, species are dying and whatever. I have yet to see any solid evidence of that. I've actually seen evidence of the contrary, where that we're doing a pretty solid job as a race trying to help other species.
The one thing she did bring up ecosystems that I thought of that appear to be suffering are coral reefs.
True, and that bothers me, but
we don't know if it's coincidental or it's total product of this change.
If you watch those Blue Planet things, which I have done more so, and there's only 2 of them, which is sad. So 2 episodes of Blue Planet ever on coral reefs, and you get into it. Pretty interesting. There's a bunch of other shit that's going
Are those
on.
The National Geographic?
I think it's BBC.
Okay.
Yeah, but they tell you a lot about it's getting hotter. Like these coral reefs are dying.
Those are those stories on. They do like the jungle, the desert.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's really cool stuff. And the new one I think it's just from 2016 or 2013.
Let's back up. So, do the coral reef ones suggest that they're failing
due to climate? Let's just say due to ocean warming. We'll leave it there, right?
Okay.
But there's also so many other factors they talk about, like just certain species being around and not around affects everything else so much. What couldn't it just be fucking anything?
Well,
is the science really clear?
And we're getting off here, and I'll let you get back on track for a second. Do you remember the zebra mussels crisis in the Great
Michigan
Lakes?
or whatever? Yeah. I don't remember it, but I know about it.
So zebra mussels are in the ocean in Asia. So for ballast, I learned something else that's great. For ballast, these ocean tankers take in water and they suck in zebra mussels, and so that they're the right height.
Right,
and,
ballast. Yeah.
They will let water out, and they let zebra mussels into the Great Lakes, and they consume, I don't know, plankton or something that is ecologically began to seriously throw off the balance of the Great Lakes. And I forget how it resolved itself, and it did resolve itself, but it was a really, really big concern. But I mean, that's just the fucking an unintended consequence of shit that we do as the world grows as a result of us fucking living as human beings. Now, we need to be responsible and make sure we don't make stupid mistakes where it can be avoided, but shit happens, right? which parlays into where you were at before I interrupted you. So keep going if you remember where you were at. Sorry.
Coral reefs dying, blah, 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 blah. Oh, ecosystems, extinction, species. Okay, who's dying, first of all? Coral reefs, good example. That bothers me. I don't know what's causing it, and I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak to that. I would inquire as to the true cause, though. That'd be interesting. And then the second thing is, that's more, never mind. We're going to jump back into it. Back to Greta. We need direction. We need a rudder. Back to Greta. To me, that all... After talking about this, let's just put a pin in the speech. The kid thing really, really, really bothers me. It's like, remember after the Parkland High School shooting happened, and then all these high schoolers started becoming...
I call BS.
Why? What?
There was this young, very well-spoken woman. She had kind of a shaved head, and she rattled off the politicians are doing this on gun control. I call BS. And it was a very well done speech. It was very moving.
Yeah. She's Hispanic or something, or...
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, the kids who were very well spoken and took a position and had a lot to say for not that long a time. But that's where you were going, right?
Right. And during that time, this kind of came up again, which is what role do children play in an intellectually... I feel ridiculous saying that. In an intellectual discussion, I would say fucking none. Keep your mouth shut. In a political discussion, you're a person. It's like you're a person. You're a pawn, just like Greta is. You're a mouthpiece for a one side that's already determined, and you can have your own opinions, but really you're going to have to stay inside the realm of that tribe. You're not going to have much leeway, and you're not going to be making policy by any means.
I'm going to take your point a little further.
Run with it, yeah.
Because to me, she was this far from crying.
That's why I was...
during a lot of that speech. So
you go back to
So
watch.
part of your point is you have an adolescent, almost a child up there, okay? So I learned, interestingly, that as adults, generally, and I'm sorry, society, but men and women are different, that women...
What?
in times of, we'll call it crisis, are 4 times more likely to cry than men. So setting aside life's tragedies, death of a loved one, extreme circumstances of loss, men and women cry equally. But in times of general life crises, typically the way men react is anger and aggression, and the way women react is crying and emotional outbursts.
I would argue that anger is an emotional outburst, but that's fair.
That's fair. But okay.
I know what you're saying. You just mean sadness and
Well, women are 4 times more likely to cry.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I kept Googling, and I tried to get into teenagers, and then I found something, and I was psychology articles, some would appear to be reputable source, and it said it reaffirmed 4 times more likely to cry, but then it said adolescents, and it was adolescent females full of estrogen, and so the amount they're going to cry, it was off limits, can't even really say off the scale. There's, and then it was
it's like when you're measuring,
and it was young men and anger and outbursts,
way higher,
unused to testosterone,
same deal,
can't even measure it. So at the age of 16, boys' inclination to fist pound and yell and scream and fight,
or literally jump up and down on the ground and
yes, and go crazy. Just off the scale. And young ladies' propensity to cry and be emotional, just off the scale.
I would say anyone who's been to high school knows that to be true.
Right.
And that's not a slight at either gender or whatever the fuck. Whatever, that's just a fact of life for me. And if you disagree with that, speak your mind. The 16-year, the emotional shit, you guys called me up here to say you. How dare you ask me to save you? It's like,
I shouldn't even be here.
this is a fucking. You are feeding on emotion right now. You are literally, and you're trying to get the people that are listening to you to feed on it too. Maybe that's not your goal. Like I said, maybe she's not the puppeteer, but she's definitely part of the show. It's like the goal of this speech is tearjerker and like, she's right. Like, we need to like climate change now.
We're not doing enough.
Right.
We are fucked up. Oh my god.
We
You
are
know what?
fucked up. That's
Let's
true.
adjourn this meeting. I'll go home and come back with whatever plan she says we should bring back.
Righteous mob. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Right. Just blind follower mentality. Yeah. That's very much what it was. And that's a dangerous fucking political tool for change or even just any action. It's like
It is this year's or this whatever's fucking congregation of the UN. I'm not sure if congregation is the right word, but
whatever people congregated.
on climate change. Right?
Yeah.
And they invited a teenager to
Discuss science.
do whatever it was
Oh, no, shoot.
the intended outcome of that speech was. And she's all over YouTube. They knew what they were getting. Or whoever decided she was going to speak. This was a calculated decision. I'm sorry.
I'm having a funny scenario in my head where someone's telling someone else about this. Like, yeah, they had this guest speaker, you know, on come out climate change. They're like, oh, wow, is it a scientist? Nope. She was 16. She's a little girl, didn't know much about science. It was all about emotion and feelings and life. You know, it's like...
It's a teenager whose
Yeah.
parents are extremely wealthy, who are among the, entertainment elite in Sweden. And she sailed over on their $4 million green yacht and on and on and on.
Ooh, I feel a fucking speech coming out of me right now. We've talked about on this show how climate change is one of my issues that I don't really, flop on either side. I was kind of tentative or, I'm still feeling around. And I thought the big part of this argument was like the actual science, like the data, the science. Go into it and figure out what the fuck the truth is, and then we'll make a change based on that. And the thing is, we can't agree on the science because it's kind of hard. It's whatever. It's nebulous sometimes. How dare you, fucking Greta Thunberg, come at me with this emotional argument and tell me that I need like these things that I need to do? You're not even giving me any facts, not even any data. The only thing she said about data was the science has been crystal clear for 30 years. False.
Or whoever's behind the speech and her presence on that stage.
Right, caveat.
And the whole bit.
Yes, but I
fucking
like
shame
to...
on whomever. And fucking all of you.
Yeah. Yeah, how dare you try to fucking do that to me and my less...
Go back to how I started it, right? The whole fucking thing is a manipulation.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting.
Yeah, disgusting is a good word. That's fitting.
And I just think she's a tool in the toolbox of her parents and or whomever.
Right, and that's the thing. And or who else? Dun, dun, dun. Conspiracy.
Right.
But we're not even being crazy. There's someone else. There's a goal here, right? It's not just like, my daughter spoke at the UN and we're fancy. Let's go to parties and eat caviar and fly in a fucking...
Getting back to your point. So Joe Rogan had, who's that black Republican young woman? Candace Owens?
Candace Owens, yeah. I don't like her.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. I thought I was, but she made a career decision. She didn't make a genuine decision. But anyway, I digress. So he brought up climate change, and she said, I'm not a believer, whatever. And he said, so there were 10,000 academics who are devoted to, I forget what the language was, but there are 10,000 people who are the academics on ecological science or whatever. And 97% of them, there was a 7% consensus that we are contributing to the global warming that appears to be a trend, right? There's arguments as to whether or not there's enough
Non-peaking
time.
trend or whatever. Yeah.
Well, but I don't know what that is, and you can explain it to me if you want to, but it's a blip in time. So we don't have enough data in time to establish whether or not this is statistically legitimate. That having been said, right, how long does the ice age take to start and stop?
Right.
And you want to know what's interesting? And again, we're getting off the original topic.
No, this is good.
But it appeared as though we were approaching a natural ice age. And you know what's better for us as human beings and for, every living animal on this earth? You know what's better than global cooling? If you had to pick one?
Global warming.
Global warming is way more survivable than an ice age.
This might sound retarded, and I chose that word particularly, even though it might upset some people. I chose that word specifically because of how this idea might sound. There is a place in the, I want to say north-ish pole, not all the way, and I am a scientist, yes, thank you for asking.
In which resides Santa Claus?
In which resides Santa Claus. And does anyone know how to get there and where to find Santa? There's a band of trees that goes all the way around the Earth on this latitude, whatever, same latitude all the way around. And it's trees, but it's also like perma snow almost, or like 10 months out of the year snow, And the trees grow really slowly because there's not enough sun, and it takes years and years and years for them to get like this tall. And this is also on Blue Planet or something, Planet Earth. If everything got warmer, wouldn't you just have like apocalypse at the equator, and then that would just become a little bit more livable inch by inch? And like I said, this might sound ridiculous, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking. Like, isn't that how heat works?
Where would it become livable?
More near the North Pole. You would get, like even Michigan would get warmer, right? And then, you go into Canada, and then you go up there, and then it's like, oh, we have this arbol forest, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, so what the total repercussions might be, so the way things are trending, my understanding is 1.5 degree warm up at the rate we're going by, I think it's 2050, and somewhere between 6 and 18 inches of coastline will be lost at this time.
Wait, 6 and 18 inches?
Yeah.
It's not like 6 and 18 miles?
No, it's 6 and 18 inches. That's my recollection. And in terms of, like wetlands and coral reefs and like what are the brackish waters on the west coast of Florida?
Oh,
that ecosystem.
no idea. The Everglade Marsh. Fucking.
There's
something.
a name for it where it's the border between. Anyway, it's a particular ecosystem, and the brackish water is like, it's not, it's salty water.
Right. That's.
But anyway,
brackish.
where these ecosystems, like the 6 and 18 inches, I mean, that's the difference between like this thing surviving and like being underwater. It's significant.
Oh, you
that
mean
having been said,
this much? I don't know. I'm thinking.
Well, no. When they say losing, I think it's moving in 6 to 18 inches. But what that means in terms of what lives above and below, that is huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's significant. That having been said, in terms of human existence, what does that mean with regard to our ability to live?
Nothing.
It might be insignificant, right? So
I'll make a judgment call.
Right, if you're living on the beach in North Carolina,
Get the fuck out.
You might be fucked, right? But
all right, you got 30 years. Go.
Right.
Right. I don't know. Like, what else do you want me to say? What? Get away from the beach.
Run.
Yeah.
No. Right. Right. There's time to adjust. Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's favorite Ben Shapiro. I forget, but he made a really, really good, 2-minute argument on how to deal with this. But yeah, it was basically
Move.
like, it wasn't quite as what's the word I'm looking
Concise?
for?
I don't know what.
No, like cynical, sinister, I don't know, something as 30 years go.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. Take that, Ben Shapiro. Not that I have anything
No,
against you.
that was amusing.
Thanks. I tried really hard.
Start running. If you can't get a foot and a half in 30 years,
Why are you alive anyway?
that's
Yeah.
a pretty good argument for Darwinism.
Yeah, we're better off without you, and it's meant to be. But I'll have to look more into that. I don't know much about it. That's why
Maybe it is 6 to 18 inches this way.
that makes a lot more sense. Because if you
Maybe it's You know what? It's got to be. It's got to be rising 6 to 18 inches. That has to be what it is. Because there's no way to measure it this. Because that would.
right, I was like,
No, it's got to be. It's got to be this.
yeah,
It's gotta
and that's 6 to 18 inches up is a fucking huge difference.
Yeah, that might mean a mile.
Yeah, if you've ever been in Puget Sound, in Seattle, or around Seattle, we stayed there for 10 days or something a couple summers ago, back when I was fat. The tides there are amazing. The place that we stayed, it was. I had a picture of it too on my old phone. Water up to basically the foundation of the house, pretty much, and then
Yeah, but that's like 2 or 3 feet, right?
something like that. But then low tide, it was 200 yards out. You could walk on land at low tide.
But
Yeah.
again, that was a few feet, correct?
Right. Yeah, definitely a few feet of difference. But there was, like those little like sea cucumber shit, like mollusks, stuff like that. They're all like still out. Boats that were once floating are now sitting on the bed.
Right.
So cool. Never experienced that in my life.
Yeah, we used to go to Maine on vacation when I was a kid.
Same deal.
And yeah.
Wow.
So there was where the lobster boats would come in and they would unload their lobster traps and all that. Yeah, at
All right,
low
Maine.
tide they would be on the sand, like
Yeah.
kind of
like that.
cocked on their side.
Right.
And it was really 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 neat to see.
It's super cool. And it's like you can go down there and touch those. What the fuck is that? That's like a sea cucumber, right? Or like, because it's salt water there in Puget Sound.
I don't know. Is this anywhere near Lorena Bobbitt?
A bobbit? You know what a bobbit is?
Lorena Bobbitt.
A
You're
bobbit
missing
is
my
a
joke.
sea creature too. No, I don't know what luring a bobbit means. Is it some kind of a slur?
It was an ill-fated attempt at a phallic joke.
Oh. Yes.
Lorena Bobbitt, this is before your time. Her husband, I believe, cheated on her, and she cut off his member, drove away with it, threw it out the window of her car. He followed her. I think he was trying not to bleed to death.
I was going to say not
Somehow
to die.
it was recovered, sewed back on. He never regained full functionality, but it was
Shocker.
It was huge.
The dick
Lorena
or the-
Bobbitt was infamous, maybe globally, but definitely in the United States for some time, 30 years ago.
That was a good reference. Now I know.
Sea cucumber, Lorena Bobbitt, thought it was funny, didn't work.
And it was huge. That's the part that I remember.
2 minutes later, I've wasted the world's time.
And you're not getting it back. That's the
I'm not
cost
getting
of
it back,
admission.
and I didn't even make it laugh.
Well, I'm laughing now. Yes, very similar to Lorena Bobbitt's scenario. It was like, I don't know. This is pointless. But there's like little living creatures, and you touch them, they like go down into the sand, and they like kind of hang out. And I imagine when there's water there, they're like eating
That's cool.
stuff.
So you walked out onto the sand? That's
you can only
neat.
go so far because the earth or whatever, the soil the bed is so unstable. You're just like stuck,
Yeah, I have no recollection of people going out there, and I have recollection that you weren't allowed to go out there. But that sounds like
Weren't allowed?
Well, that sounds like something I was
Fuck
going to
you,
say. A
Maine.
parent.
Yeah.
That sounds like something
Oh.
a parent might say to an 8-year-old kid who otherwise might go like running out
No,
into
Rufus is on a farm. Yeah, right.
Go out running into the goo.
And then gets swallowed up by the ocean or whatever. Yeah.
whatever.
But yeah, there was actually, when we were there was actually a wedding party that walked across the, not allowed. God damn, that's so funny. Yeah, there's actually a wedding party that walked across the low tide, whatever. It was really cool. It was like 10 feet away from us. They're just like walking, or 3 stories and 10 feet. But yeah, it's cool to see that.
Okay,
The house
you
was
want
awesome.
another story about kids?
Hell
and
yeah.
allowed, not allowed?
Sorry, Greta.
No, this has nothing to do with anything we're talking about. And I've tried this on a couple of kids since, and it does not work today. So when we would be walking through the store and we would say, touch something, pick something up, your parents either just wanted to keep you moving or were afraid you were going to drop, they would say, you got to put that down. And you'd look and you'd potentially want to challenge. My dad would say, the man's watching.
The man's watching.
And the minute he said that, we'd put it down.
Yeah, you're like, fuck.
Right, stand up straight, and you're looking around. The man's watching. So
Well, you grew up more of in a Big Brother time, though, right?
the man's watching.
Yeah.
That straightened us up quickly. I've tried that on some young kids, fairly recently, and they're like, "What man?"
Me, motherfucker. Yeah, right.
No, I mean they're just like, "What man?"
You're
And I'm like,
man.
"Don't look." He's looking. He's like, then they're like, "Where? Where is he?" And they're like, "You're so full of shit, fucking man. You and your man."
These fucking
I'm
kids are too
touching
smart.
what I want. Anyway,
That's funny.
we're so far off Greta now.
Instead of telling, yeah, I know. This is my last thing. I'll say this, and then we'll go back to Greta or whatever.
We can do whatever.
Yeah, this is kind of fun. The thing that my siblings and I used to do in stores was like the Pop-Tart game, we used to call it. And so instead of my mom actually ended up encouraging it. So I'm saying the opposite of the man is watching was like her encouraging this later because she thought it was fucking hilarious. We'd take Pop-Tarts and just run around random carts and just put them in people's carts. They get to check out and be like, what the fuck is this? I don't want these weird
And it was
Pop-Tarts.
always Pop-Tarts.
And then I think it went to board games. So you're like, what? This is, I didn't pick out the game of Sorry or something like that. But my mom always thought that was hilarious. And it was like a little, covert operation whenever we went to the store to sneak shit in other people's carts.
And she allowed it to happen.
She was, she
was
probably liked
amused.
the peace of mind, she didn't have
That's
to worry
funny.
about. Yeah.
That's funny.
Whose fucking kids are these? I don't know.
Not mine.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got everything. Oh, those actually are my kids now that
Shoe
I've paid.
kid.
Let's go.
Shoe kid. Meet me at the car.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was fun. They were good times. But
Noodle salad.
good times. Noodle salad. Yeah.
Just not in this car.
Love Jack Nicholson. Greta,
We don't have to go back.
I just think we should tie it on, we tie it off. We should, zip.
So the moral of the story is, there's a few here. Hypocrisy of the limousine liberal still bothers me. Do you remember the story where I told about Mika and the movie Sharknado, and
Yeah.
she called it Sharknado.
Right.
So just she's not advocating for the poor. She's an intellectual snob, and she resents. I mean, there's a correlation between poor and either uneducated or maybe an absence of the intellectual ability to get ahead. And she clearly didn't give a fuck about that. That's part of it. That's part of it.
Just a little bit, but
But I mean, I have no interest in the movie Sharknado because it
Good.
just sounds stupid.
I'd quit the
Sorry to
podcast.
be. I mean, I'm a little bit of an intellectual snob. I'll admit it. So fine.
those movies are dumb as fuck, and they're not even high quality.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, the people for whom she's advocating or should be advocating based on a lot of commingled moving parts, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. Makes her a hypocrite to me.
Yeah, and on that note, I would say that these people, likely her parents, I'm not going to, suggest anything beyond that. Likely her parents are doing all of this as a fucking, for the optics of it, for their social gatherings. And that's that has value. It's like, look, we have all these stories written. And
Yeah,
you're doing that, and you don't
and
even
the-
realize the change you're affecting.
Yeah, and the prequel to her speech was, look at how we got
Right.
from Europe to North America.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, don't look under the hood of the car with regard to what really happened in terms of flying on planes
Yeah.
and CO2 footprint, and on and on and on.
And I'll say this. I'll actually throw you guys a softball out there at the Thunbergs. Maybe you guys are just being good parents. I don't know. Because, we didn't talk about the Asperger's thing and the OCD thing, but people with Asperger's very often are obsessive about like a particular topic. Like they can get super involved in one thing, which is why I love podcasting. No. And maybe this is her thing, and her parents are trying to be supportive of that thing and trying to be good parents, and this is how they're doing it. But it's a pretty shitty way to go about doing that if you're going to think about how it affects the planet, the rest of us.
Yeah, but part of being a good parent is, be careful what you ultimately teach someone, and in this case, their child, in terms of the reality behind the purported message. That being this bullshit fucking boat and all the hyperbole. And there was clearly a prequel to this story, which was, the manner by which and the trouble to which these people go to be environmentally responsible. This whole boat, they spent their hard-earned money on this fucking boat. And that's where I saw it off, and I never even got to. So there's this, young girl who's incredibly inspirational, and she's on the spectrum of Asperger's, and I was interested in that, and I got so torqued up about the boat thing and the 10 ass seats that I never got there, and I'm interested in. It was a compelling speech. I'd like to know more about this very interesting girl. And I'll read that. But again, I just couldn't get past the boat and the ass seats and the hypocrisy and just, again, how fucking disgusting the whole thing was.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I saw the speech and I'm like, all right, clearly this girl's not in this alone. And then the boat story was there. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I was really interested in the carbon footprint of the boat. That's where my mind was going.
Yeah.
And in researching the boat, I found all this information on these people who had the same hang-ups that I have, which is what's the real story about, how many people flew where and what it really took to do this charade.
And I felt that curiosity when I was first reading about the story, like what was the CO2 emission to build the boat and do all this shit to it, but I didn't want to actually delve into it. I was like, I didn't have the emotional capacity to do it at the time. But
well, I think that was more like the math thing, right? What's really the math behind this boat, and how'd you get here? What'd you save?
Gavin McInnes says that people who are on the right tend to be more like that, but I don't know if I would say that that's true. People just are like, let me know the fact. People are it's Donald Trump's a Nazi. Who's going to round the people up? Are they going to go by trucks or trains or buses? And who's going to build the roads? And who's going to build? It's like shit like that. The facts, all the evidence. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's interesting. And
wait, what do you potentially disagree with?
His theory that people who are on the right are more like that. Like, let me know the truth. I don't know that I would agree with. That's kind of a weird thing to say. Because I definitely know Republicans who are morons.
Yeah, I think there's a correlation between like some certain fundamental tenets of being conservative and being what's the psychological word that Jordan Peterson uses all the time? High IQ and being conscientious.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So being conscientious is one of the 5 traits of what people are. And so I think there is a correlation between being conservative and being conscientious, which is being systemic in how you approach things. And that's kind of what would lead you to certain conservative values.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's fair.
Conservatives are more, and I'm making huge generalizations here, are more structured and task and managerial oriented, and Democrats are more like creative and I.
Well, you can tell that just by looking at the protests from each throughout the eras. It's like,
yeah, but I mean, look at Hollywood, right? Creative types, actors, and they're all for the most part, Democrats. So
It's kind of like I would say free thinkers, right?
yeah, but
It's like Athens versus Sparta. There you go.
but
Both are bad
I
examples.
think it's fair.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, that's fine. Now that you've kind of backed it up, I feel a little bit more strongly about it.
And I don't give a fuck. I got no dog in that fight.
Or I just don't want to ruffle any feathers. Either way,
Yeah, I think
because I would consider that an admirable quality, being like wanting to know the details.
I don't know. Is art 8-balling and feather ruffling synonymous?
Yeah, but I thought that was an off limits. Actually, fuck it, whatever. You're right. We decided on that, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Fuck it.
I think part of our job is to ruffle some feathers.
Otherwise, what's the point?
What's the point?
You're not really being
Yes.
us.
And we've gotten less safe as we've gone along, and that was by design.
And well, now it's trained. We're like practiced enough to know what to say without having to think about it too much.
That's
So,
true.
but
I agree.
we're talking about back of house stuff.
Yes. Originally, we were going to name this show A Couple of White Guys. And the irony was supposed to be self-evident, but we were concerned that it just would never come out in the wash.
It wouldn't play. Yeah, you guys would be like, nope. Right, but then we also thought that it would be too popular at that point anyway.
Right. But now we'd probably have 1,000 followers instead of 20.
We're changing the name of the show, by the way. It's A Couple of White Guys. No, I'm just joking. Yeah.
I will just put 2 white balls.
Excuse me. Yeah, so Greta, not a fan of that's just a charade. And I don't even know why I'm giving it like time to talk about it. It seems almost so juvenile it doesn't deserve any thought, but I think it's a good thing to discuss so that people are aware of what is going on here.
Well, I don't know. Some of the shit you just gotta... I think these things get momentum.
Yeah.
And certain things, like you said, I think you discuss them, you put them in their place, and you move on. I mean, that's why we started doing this.
Yeah.
Right?
And I won't say that it didn't upset me. That's a whole different thing. I'm not just because I don't think it's worth or necessarily like worthy of a whole episode doesn't mean that it didn't bother me and like I wanted to do that. But it's like if we're gonna allow her to fuck with us this much, that's not the right thing. The way you win that is just being like, yeah, whatever, that's fucking stupid.
Well, the people who are fucking with us are her parents.
Right.
Really.
Well, that's why I keep saying, on its face is her, but whatever else is going on.
Right.
Implied.
And you know what? Shame on them for... Yeah, this may be doing that girl irreparable harm.
You think it's not? She's forever going to be that person.
No, that's what I mean. I said this may
I'm
be
sorry.
doing her irreparable harm.
I think that there's no doubt that it will. Because in 7 years or 8 years, she's going to be a totally different person.
It's so
I'm
funny.
22 now. When I was 16, who the fuck?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So I made this goofy ass scenario in my head where, so she's going to go to college and get a PhD in environmental studies. And let's say she's, ultimately totally brilliant. Okay. And she's got a PhD.
Which she likely is.
Yeah. And she's got a PhD and she's totally data driven. And she's this dry,
ponytail.
This super dry, kind of monotonous personality. And she's like, I want to speak at next year's global UN conference on climate change. And they're like, you're not moving. You're going to put up a bunch of charts and talk about a bunch of numbers and statistics. We want nothing to do with you.
I was going the other way, but that...
No, I
That's
played
funny
that
as
out of
fuck.
my head when I was
Yeah.
thinking about it before I found all this shit on the boat. And
Here's
I was
the
like, I'm like, we want, in 20 years, they're going to want nothing to do with her.
Here's the way that this plays out in my mind is that she outgrows them. I like that kind of a fantasy. So it's like she's a scientist, and then they're like, then, people who meet her are like, are you fucking Greta Thunberg? Like, the climate change girl? She's like, yes.
Yeah.
This is...
That's funny.
I invented a new way for petroleum engines to be more efficient. They're like, yeah, but you're the petroleum. It's like, it's her reputation now is forever scarred as this one thing. And I don't know. It's like, yeah.
I thought of something. Oh, my gosh. And I didn't even bring this up. And I forgot to say, hey, AOC, We got your answer to how to move people because you want to do away with commercial flights in 10 years. Do you remember that as part of the new Green Deal?
Yeah.
In 10 years, no more commercial planes. Carbon fiber boats.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
and,
you need 160-foot boat.
32,000 man hours per boat, by the way.
Right, for 2 people and 3 crew members. Sounds like an idea.
So, what's the math here on how many
I did
people
the
are
real,
crew
I
members
did the
and
real
how many
quick math.
people?
So we're going to go from moving people. We're going to go from moving millions of people every year from Europe to North America to moving thousands, and we're going to take the average price for a round trip back and forth to say $500 to $1,000. Let's just say it's in that range to somewhere between $10,000 and $50,000, and we're going to ruin commerce between the 2 continents. Yeah, some unintended consequences,
Carbon
right?
fiber boats.
Carbon fiber boats. So, hey, AOC, if you're watching, we got your answer.
And you got your first prototype. Go hit up the Thunbergs in Sweden. Probably be a cool vacation anyway.
Yeah, so
Yeah, especially with 3 crew members
So,
to wait on you.
Alexandria, call Greta.
Oh, yeah.
Put that in your to-do list. There you go.
Oh man, I like that. You're like, wait, one more thing.
Right, I forgot about that because I'm like, here's AOC's answer on how to get rid of planes.
Fucking boats. Oh my god.
But wait a minute. How do you shuttle the crews back and forth? Oh, so we're actually going to need to increase the number of flights by 250% to utilize these boats.
Per trip, right? So it's just like
We got a math problem here.
All right, we need to do the numbers. We'll get back to you guys next episode.
Right.
Well, I'm just gonna foreshadow here. It's not feasible. I don't know. It's just a guess.
What do you think? Close on this one?
I like that. Sure, we're on a strong note.
All right, we're out of here. Later, people.